battle is not against Arabs, not against Gentiles. That's a periphery kind of battle. The real struggle is against Jews, not against them per se, but against the ideas that Jews have, which are so dangerous to Jews, to the Jewish people, and the Jewish state. One of the reasons that Jews have these wrong ideas, because it's so uncomfortable to think about the right idea. The Talmud tells us that when Jacob returned from his exile, Jacob, as a young man, had to flee. He had to run away from his father's house. His brother wanted to kill him. His uncle cheated him. His wife died on him. And he had a terrible, terrible life. A very difficult life. And he finally returned as an old man to Eretz Kahane, to the land of Israel. And it says, Bikesh Yaakov le'shev b'shalva. And Jacob wanted to rest in tranquility. He wanted to be tranquil. I had a hard life. I'm an old man. I want to live out my life tranquil. So the Talmud quotes God saying, is it not enough for the righteous that they will be tranquil in the world to come? They also want to be tranquil in this world. And yet, this world wasn't given to us to be tranquil. It wasn't given to us for pleasure and stuff. There's nothing wrong with pleasure. And there's nothing wrong with being tranquil. But if that is going to be your goal, that's not the Jewish way. That's not the Jewish way. The Jewish way is to climb the mountain, to make this world a better place for you having been in it. And that's difficult. And most people don't want that. Most people want to come home at night and watch television and relax. As that a weekend they want to sit around and they want to watch a ball game or go out to the beach and relax. That's not the Jewish way. That's not the Jewish way. Not that there's anything wrong with ball games, but that's not what it's supposed to be. And so, because Jews run away from the problem, it's God's major job, our major role is to compel Jews to think and to give all these uncomfortable questions to them. So it's to move them out of their comfortableness, out of their comfort, the tranquility, which in the end will kill Jews. Tranquility kills Jews. In Europe, in the 1930s, Jews refused to want to believe that a Holocaust was coming. And because of that, they died. Jews consistently refused to want to see the truth. And because of that, the truth eventually catch up to them. And it's a bitter truth. And it's a terrible truth. And it's a truth that is a deadly truth. So therefore, it's important for us as an ideological movement to present uncomfortable questions to comfortable Jews, no matter how painful it is for them. And bear in mind, nobody likes a person who gives him discomfort. Nobody likes that kind of person. When a person is drowning and someone jumps in to save him, there's an interesting kind of a reaction on the part of the person who's drowning. The person panics and he starts to fight the person who wants to save him. Well, it's the exact same thing here. Jews will fight people who want to save them. Now, not only do we have to pose the uncomfortable questions to comfortable Jews, we also, in the end, have to have answers to these questions. In short, not only do we have to make Jews feel uncomfortable by facing up to the facts, but we have to, in the end, make them feel better by saying, we have the answers which in the end will make you survive. Now, we could go on here for an entire evening on these questions, but I think it's important that we raise some of the most basic ones only. First of all, we have to point out to the Jewish people that they have to stop playing this game in which they believe that they can put together a state of Israel which is a Jewish state and which at the same time is the Western liberal state that America is. There is a contradiction between Zionism, any kind of Zionism, even the most secular Zionism. Zionism per se is a contradiction to Western democracy. And we must get that through to people, or else if you look at Israel and see the confusion in it today, and the march to suicide, it's because they're confused. Because they want to be something which they cannot be. Zionism came into being to create a Jewish state. Now, I'm not even speaking yet about Judaism. Leaving aside Judaism, Zionism of any kind, whether you're a religious Zionist, an irreligious Zionist, a leftist Zionist, a right-wing Zionist, each one has the same common basis, and that is the establishment of a Jewish state. Zionism, Herzl's book was called The Jewish State. Herzl wasn't a religious Jew, but he was a Zionist, and Zionism came into being to create a Jewish state because the Jewish people, after 1900 years of not having a state, and of having enjoyed all of the wonderful benefits of a minority status, the wonderful benefits, crusades and pogroms and inquisitions. It was a pleasure. So finally, after 1900 years, the Jews got up and said, thank you, but no thanks. This time we want to be the majority. We want to decide our fate, and the only way is if we have our state, and if we control the state, and if we run the state, and if we have sovereignty, and that's only if we're the majority. So that's what Zionism is all about. A majority Jewish population in their own country. Now that means that the non-Jew is not allowed in any way to be given an opportunity to overturn that. Because otherwise, who wants to be a minority in Tel Aviv? It's much better to be one in Beverly Hills. If you're going to be a minority already, at least enjoy some of the benefits of it. Western democracy doesn't accept that position. Western democracy does not look at a person's national origin or religion. Everybody is the same, and there's no question. And the only thing that matters is majority rule. Doesn't matter who the majority is. If the Arabs will be the majority under Western democracy, they have a right, an absolute right, a divine right, to be that majority and to run the state the way they see fit. That's Western democracy. Now there is a tremendous contradiction. That is the most painful thing for the average American or the average Western Jew who must live in this delusion of Jewish democracy. And you'll hear a person like Abba Evan using this concept of Jewish democracy. Now Abba Evan is no fool. He's a demagogue. He knows that there is no such thing as Jewish democracy or Arab democracy. You can't have any kind of a hyphenated democracy. Democracy is democracy, period. And so, the first uncomfortable question is, do the Arabs have a right to peacefully, let's say tomorrow morning Arafat becomes a Balchuk, and all the Arabs become penitents. and they all raise the cry to all the Arabs, to all the Muslims, we will no longer have war with Israel. Make love, not war. And every night in Israel, the Arabs make love. Do the Arabs have a right to have enough babies to be the majority? That's the question. Do they have a right, a theoretical, ideological right to be the majority in Israel, have 61 members in Knesset, have a prime minister? Or don't they? Do they have a right? If you're a Zionist, you say no. If you're a Democrat, you say yes. If you're afraid to take a stand, you have no answer. We must force the Jews to answer that question. We have to say, you are going to walk out of this room today a Zionist or an anti-Zionist. But we won't give you the opportunity to continue deceiving not only us, but yourself. You are going to have to decide, because it is not a theoretical question. It's not a theoretical problem. This isn't some kind of a college course in theory, political theory. The Galilee today at this moment is majority Arab. We're talking about the northern quarter of Israel, the most sensitive area in Israel, bordering on Lebanon, Golan Heights. This is an area which has a majority of Arabs now who more and more are speaking about autonomy for the Galilee. We're not talking about autonomy for Judea and Samaria. We're talking about autonomy for the Galilee. And what you have is the beginning there of a Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland was quiet for many, many years, for decades. You didn't hear it. There was no fighting in Northern Ireland in the 1930s and 1940s. Only in the beginning of 1960 that this thing erupted, and now look at it. Now, so that's the first question. And you must answer it. Do the Arabs have a right democratically to be the majority, yes or no? Two, you have to ask them, when the Declaration of Independence of Israel, and they always quote that selectively. People love to quote things that they like. Well, you have to take things in their entirety. And you have to say, the Declaration of Independence of Israel says, as you say, equal political rights for all its citizens. No question about that. But it also says, in its operative paragraph, we hereby declare the establishment of a Jewish state. And I say, which paragraph do you read? Does the Declaration of Independence set up a state of the Jews or a state of confusion? Now, obviously, the people that wrote it knew full well the contradiction in that same document, the absurdity of mentioning 19 times in that document the Jewish people, Jewish state, the Jews have returned to their country, inalienable right of the Jewish people to their state, Jew, but equal political rights to everybody to turn it into an Arab state. Of course, that's nonsense. But you have to force people to look at it. The people that wrote it were demagogues. They hoped that the issue would never really rise. And for 30 years, it never rose. Nobody, not Begin and not... In this instance, in this concept of not facing up to this contradiction, Begin was not one bit different than any Labour Party person. The Likud never raised this issue, ever. 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 Uncomfortable question 3. The State of Israel's first basic law was called the Law of Return. It was passed in 1950 by the Labor Party. And the law of return, which is still the basic law of Israel, gives every Jew in the world an automatic right to come to Israel and be a citizen. But not a non-Jew. Every Jew, and it says every Jew. Now the question that you have to pose to them is, if Jerry Falwell proposed a bill in Congress stating that every Christian in the world has a right to come to America, what would the ADL say? How many ADL heart attacks would there be across the country? How many Jewish liberals? What would the New York Times say? And say, and here is the end of the question, if there would be no law of return, and Mayor Kahane would introduce such a bill tomorrow morning in Knesset, word for word, as it is today, what would they call him? Is Ben-Gurion, or was he a racist? He introduced the bill. You must make people think. The Jewish National Fund. What is a less political thing than the Jewish National Fund? Planting trees. What could be terrible about planting trees? In the bylaws of the Jewish National Fund, it states that national land shall be leased to Jews only. Can you imagine? In the Knesset, in one of my speeches, I got up and I read it, and I said, I stand here shocked, in horror. I hate racism. I guess it's outrageous. And we proposed a bill to do away with the Jewish National Fund. Now, the question arises, was there anybody to make any such comment that either defend it and say, yes, it's a great thing because it's Jewish national land, or get up and say, no, it's a racist bill. That's what people have to decide. We have to ask and force upon people. The question, why do Jews have contempt for Arabs? We have to get it through to them that of all the Jewish organizations in the world, COP is the only organization that does not have contempt for Arabs. Contempt for Arabs lies in the belief that there are good Arabs and bad Arabs. See, that's contempt for Arabs. What does the average Jewish liberal mean when he says to me, Doc, aren't there any good Arabs? What does he mean by a good Arab? Let me tell you what he means by a good Arab. He means an Arab who passively and peacefully accepts the fact that though it's his country, the Jews are running it. See, that's a good Arab. Someone who won't get up and throw stones at Jews. That's a good, even though he really believes that the Jews are thieves. I think that a good Arab is like a good Jew. They're exactly the same. What's a good Jew? What's a good Jew? A good Jew is someone who believes that the country belongs to him. A good Jew is someone who used to throw stones at the British because they were taking his country away. That's a good Jew. So why don't we understand that a good Arab is someone who throws stones at the Jews? So someone asks, aren't there any good Arabs? They're all good Arabs. There isn't a bad Arab around. Every Arab is a good Arab. Every Arab hates the Jews for taking his country from him. So in fact, people say, but look at, most of the Arabs don't plant barn. What do you mean most? 98% of them don't plant barn. So what? In France, in World War II, there were 40 million Frenchmen. How many joined the underground? That proves that most of the Frenchmen love the Nazis. See? It takes a little bit of courage, quite frankly, to plant a bomb. I mean, to be a terrorist, it takes courage. After all, if you're caught, maybe you'll be shot, or maybe given, life imprisonment, even though life imprisonment in Israel for a terrorist usually turns out to be 2 years. before there's an exchange. Nevertheless, it takes, the average person doesn't have the courage to be a terrorist. But the fact that he doesn't plant bombs doesn't mean that in his heart he wouldn't like to plant the bomb, or he doesn't support the people that do plant the bombs. So contempt for Arabs lies in the fact that you get up and you say, I know you think we took the country from you, but let's live together peacefully in coexistence. A coexistence in the liberal Jewish mind is like the donkey and his rider. The Jew will be the rider, and the Arab will be the donkey, and that's coexistence. Let's go together. Now, we don't have contempt for the Arabs. We know that the Arabs sincerely believe that it is their country. They're absolutely wrong. They're totally wrong. But that has no relevance on what they think. And they would like a coexistence, but they want to be the rider. Contempt for Arabs extends further to the incredible liberal belief that money will buy anything. There's a problem, money. You cannot buy the Arabs. You cannot buy people. You cannot buy people's national pride. It's nonsense that you hear people. The Arabs in Israel live better than the Arabs in any other country in the world. Think of the every word drips with contempt for the Arabs. You think that you can buy them? The Arabs of Judea and Samaria, when they lived under Jordan, lived under far worse conditions than today. They're like kings today. So how come they throw bombs at us, throw stones at us? How come they want to go back to the conditions that they had? Because a person, first of all, wants his freedom, his national pride, his national state. You don't buy that by saying, but look, every house a toilet. Only people whose minds run to toilets think that you can talk about toilets. That's a national cause. You cannot buy people. In fact, the more they progress in economics and socially, the greater their expectations and the more dangerous they are. The more education that the Arab gets, the more dangerous is that Arab. Nationalism thrives on educated people, not on ignorant people. I think that it's important that Kahane picket and hand out flyers at every dinner of American Friends of Hebrew University, or Tel Aviv University, or Haifa University, asking, how many PLO leaders will you create by giving money to Haifa University? The PLO leaders of tomorrow will come out of Israel, out of the universities of Israel, where Arabs are studying to be lawyers, and physicists, and chemists, and doctors. And so the question is, for the comfortable Jew, do you believe that we should be of the same state of mind that the British were in Africa and in Asia, when they used to scratch their heads and say, what do the natives want? We've given them everything. When the British in India used to say, what do the natives want? Or when the British in Kenya used to say, we came and found a jungle, and now it's a garden. Well, the answer of the natives was, you're right, but it was our jungle. And now it's your garden. And the same thing when some Jewish leader, when some UJA speaker at a breakfast or at a brunch, or a lunch, or dinner, whatever way they raise money for eating. When he gets up and he babbles about, we took a desert and turned it into a garden, the Arab says, but it was my desert. Understand that. You don't buy a person. Not by bread alone shall man live. That's what the Bible says. That goes for all people, including Arabs. That's not comfortable. Too bad. It's the truth. The more educated the Arabs are, the more dangerous they are. And we have created not only a quantity of Arabs in Israel, we have created a qualitatively different Arab. 40 years ago, 39 years ago, when the Arabs fled Israel, and by the way, never let people forget that 600,000 Arabs fled the country. Yeah. And I'll come back to it soon. When in 1948, Israel was left with only 110,000 Arabs. All the intellectuals had fled. All their leaders had fled. It was 110,000 people who were mostly backward peasants, illiterate people. Today, the Arab in Israel knows how to read, knows how to write, goes through high school, and there are over 4,000 Arab students today in the universities of Israel. He's a different Arab. He's not afraid today. The Arab used to be afraid. The Arab today is not afraid. He's a sabra. He speaks Hebrew perfectly. You can't even tell anymore that he's... There was a time when you could tell by the Arab pull bull. You get a bull kind of. Arabs have problems with P. But today, the young Sabra Arab has no problem. He wears jeans. You can't tell that he's an Arab today. You go to Akko, you go to Jaffa, you go to Ramle, Lud, which are mixed cities. You don't know. There's a stand, falafel stand, and a person that looks like a Jew, and he's an Arab. So the question has to be, do you believe that you can buy an Arab's national pride by giving him an indoor toilet in lieu of his national flair? And that's the point. The Jews drove out Arabs. Don't believe this baloney. That the Arabs left because they heard over the radio that they should leave that the Arab state said leave for a couple of days and then we'll wipe out Israel and then you'll come back. If there were 33 Arabs that had radios in 1948, it was a lot. The Jews, thank God there were Jews then who did great things. In Rabin's book, Rabin wrote a book, a biography, autobiography. And in the English version, the Hebrew version was censored. It was censored. But the English version could not be censored. It was made real. And in the book, he describes that he, as the commander of the Haganah forces in Ramle and Lud, they were faced with a problem. 50,000 Arabs lived in Ramle and Lud. And when they captured the town, he asked Ben Gurion what to do with them. And he says, we were walking outside the town, and he said, and he made a gesture with his hand. Out. And they drove them out. They drove them out. Is that racist? Good. When Rabin, aside from the fact He was the one that fired on the Hebrew ship Altarim. He was the commander of the forces. In the Knesset, the first time that I got up to speak, he was sitting here and he said, "You're a fascist." I said, "First, I have not yet driven out Arabs. And I certainly have never killed Jews." And ever since then, he's been quiet. The fact of the matter is that we have to understand that Arabs were driven out of the country. Thank God. Why doesn't anybody who is opposed to doing that now get up and say it was bad done? Should we allow the 80,000 Arabs who lived in Jaffa in 1948 and who fled to come back now to Jaffa? After all, it's their home. Of course, the 80,000 are now 800,000. It's true. But after all, fair is fair. Should we allow the 70,000 Jews from Haifa, Arabs from Haifa, who fled, to go back to Haifa with their children and grandchildren and so on? Should we allow the 600,000 Arabs, who are now close to 2.5 million, to come back to their homes? Why not? What makes a green line holy? When people say the occupied lands, what's occupied? Tell me what is occupied. Under the UN 1947 plan of partition, which was accepted by the Jews, Jaffa was given to the Arabs. Is Jaffa occupied today? Ramleh and Lida were given to the Arabs. Are they occupied lands? The entire Western Galilee was given to the Arabs. Is that occupied? Beersheba was given to the Arabs. Is that occupied? Ashkelon was given to the Arabs. Is that occupied land? What makes Hebron more occupied than Jaffa? There is an artist colony near Haifa, Ein Hod. It's an art, and all the artsy craftsy types live there. All the leftists, the haters, vicious, anti-Semites, Jews. Ein Hod was an Arab village called Ein Chut. Ein Chut. And they drove the Arabs out, and they took over the home. And now, a few of the Arabs who stayed in the country want their lands back. Now, we intend to pick it with them. We're gonna form something called Peace Right Now. against the occupied land. Starting with Ein Hod. People who every single day write in the papers about the colonizers in Kiryat Arba should put their money where their mouth is, where their art is. The hypocrisy is blatant. Katamon in Jerusalem, in West Jerusalem, was an Arab neighborhood, and the Arabs fled, and now Jews live there. All the Moroccan Jews live in Katamon. You can imagine us getting up tomorrow morning and telling all the Jews there to get out because it was fair. The hypocrisy is so amazing. It's incredible. It's incredible. Next uncomfortable question. How many Arabs will be in Israel without any war in 10 years or 15 years? How many Arabs? In the face of an Arab birth rate that is more than 3 times that of the Jews. By the way, I must tell you that there was an article written in the Jewish Week, certainly not the Jewish Strand, that's for sure. In the Jewish Week, by someone named, I forgot his name, Gershon something, and he was described in the blurb as a student of demographics. I don't know what that means. He's a freshman, he's a senior, a student, way out of the way. He studies demographics. And he wrote an article that the latest figures show that the Arab birth rate is dropping and there's no more problems. Now, again, people who don't want to believe, you can make an impure thing pure. The Talmud says an impure insect can be made pure in 150 ways. But an impure insect is still impure per se. Last year, the Israeli government had a special emergency cabinet session to discuss the drop in Jewish birth rate and the fact that the Arabs are rapidly growing. So obviously made no less than prestige. Last month, there was a special and urgent motion Knesset by the Labor Party member from Sfat of South, in which he warned that the Galilee is not only becoming an area where Jews are minority, but that Jews are now fleeing the Galilee. So he doesn't know as much as his fellow Jews would. Well, nobody speaks about the fact that the Jewish birth rate has dropped far greater manner. Sephardic Jews who used to have 6, 7 Jewish children, their family, thanks to an Ashkenazi social worker who babbles them about, don't be cowards. So now the Sephardic birth rate has dropped to below 3 children. Now, thank God, now they're civilized, just like us. The fact of the matter is that the Ashkenazi birth rate is below ZPG, and the Sephardic one is rapidly dropping. And the Arab birth rate is growing. Why? Because they used to have more babies, but many of their babies died because of poor medical care. But thank God, if you go to Hadassah in Keren, it's a pleasure to see how many Arab babies are being born thanks to us. And none of them died because of good medical care. So the question arises, given that, and the fact that all of the comfortable Jews of America are not planning to move to Israel. Nobody's moving to Israel. On the contrary, Jews are leaving Israel, and the only thing that keeps more of them out are quotas in America. Thank God for an immigration quota. That is the great Zionist weapon today, the U.S. immigration quota. That is the weapon of Zionism. If not for that, if the gates of this country would be open, free, wide, half of Israel would be driving taxis today in New York City. I'm not joking. During the summertime, you go to the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv. At 3 a.m., you see people lining up for visas. At 3 a.m. Because they know that it's limited to 35 visas a day. So they'll line up at 3 a.m. Now, given all of that, and given the fact that on the plane as I was coming here, I was reading one of the Israeli papers, which said that in the latest poll, 20% of the youth question said that they were hoping to leave Israel. In the face of all of that, in the face of the fact that 25,000 abortions, all Jewish, are in Israel every single year, how many Arabs are going to be sitting in the Knesset in 10 years? That's a question to ask all these, comfortable Jews. Or does it bother them? Or the next one. Everybody's overjoyed that the next consul general in Atlanta is going to be an Arab. Well, the question arises, given the fact that the Arabs within the state of Israel now make up close to 20% of the country, why a consul general? Why not if you want a real gesture, the ambassador? And how many of the people that are so happy? Consul general. What about an ambassador? An Arab. What about the Minister of Defense? An Arab. about the prime minister. And if they're not as happy about that as about a consul general, then the hypocrisy just reeks onto the heavens. Indeed, what's wrong with a chief of staff of the army being an Arab? Naturally, a loyal Arab. And how come that no Arabs are allowed to sit on the Knesset Committee on Defense? How come? Why not? We have Knesset members today. Arab Knesset. How come no Arab Knesset members are allowed to sit on that committee? How come? Is that nice? Is that nice? When Knesset member Wata, Muhammad Wata, who was an Arab Knesset member from one of the leftist parties, got up to complain about having won 2 seats on the town council here at Arab, two of the 9 seats, one by and that we demanded the firing of all Arabs working for the council. He got up and he said this is racist. And I got up and I answered him. I said, why do you have to go all the way to Kiryat Arba to look for racism? Right in this Knesset. If you weren't a Knesset member, you couldn't even be hired here as a waiter. There are no Arab workers in the Knesset for reasons of safety and security. When a Jewish taxi driver comes up to the Knesset gates, they let him through. If it's an Arab-like taxi driver, he has to stop. And the passengers get out, and he isn't allowed to go through. I ask, is that nice? You can imagine. So, of course, he sat, and of course, he agreed with me silently with every single word. There's only the Jews that started yelling at me. Because that's too painful for them to hear. The hypocrisy. I don't mind if someone would have the courage to get up and say, I believe that Israel should be a democracy, and Jews, Arabs, to me, it doesn't matter. Okay, he's an idiot, he's an imbecile, he's insane, but he's at least an honest imbecile. Okay. But the worst thing is the hypocrisy of people who talk about racism when they live exactly that kind of a life. Now, the next question, uncomfortable question, has to do not only with Arabs, it has to do with what to me is by far the greater question. The whole question of our Jewishness. First of all, the state of Israel. If we give up land, will that bring us peace? Give up land, have a compromise. The obstacle to peace is the occupied lands of 1967, and therefore we have to give up land. Now, the question arises in the 1920s when the Arabs were massacring Jews. What was bothering them? Who was inciting them in 1929 when they killed 67 Jews in one day? Who was inciting them? Now, obviously, it wasn't me. It wasn't one. And obviously, it wasn't Begin. Because Begin was a little child in Poland. But who was inciting the Arabs when they massacred in the 1920s hundreds of Jews? Was it the occupied lands of 1967 and 1927? Was that what was going on? Between 1936 and 1938, 510 Jews were murdered in Israel. 510 Jews. What was bothering the Arabs Why did they kill 510 Jews in 1936, 37, 38? Was it the occupied lands of 1967? And if only in 1937 we'd have given up the 67 lands, then they would have stopped killing Jews? In 1947, when they could have had their Palestine, the UN proposed a partition plan, which would have made 2 states, a Jewish state and an Arab state, which they might have named Palestine. And they turned that state down and they went to war. Was it because of the occupied lands of 1967? It's very important for us to put an end to this nonsense. It's not the occupied lands of 1967, it's the occupied lands, period. And occupied lands for them means every inch of what they call Palestine. That's occupied to them. Why can't we grasp that? Kansas farmers know what land means. Alba even doesn't know what land is. You go to a farm in Kansas at 4 o'clock in the morning. You start to build a house on a farmer's land. You think that he's going to walk out to you and say, "Good morning, sir. I realize that this is my land, but for the sake of peace, take part in it." You think that that's how Kansas farmers work? A Kansas farmer walks out with his shotgun and he says, "You have 3 seconds to get off the land." Because Kansas farmers are normal. It's only people that have never lived in their own land, that don't know what land is. It's people that haven't lived in their land for 2,000 years that are not normal. You can't be normal always being a stranger in people's homes. If you had to live in a furnished room for your whole life in someone's home, you could never be normal. You would have to worry how you're dressed and what you're saying, what you're this and what that. You would be filled with all kinds of problems. But that's what Jews were. 2,000 years living as tenants in people's homes, without never knowing when that door's going to break open and they're going to kill you. Or worse, if I say the wrong thing, is he going to be angry at that? So naturally, you're not normal. People that have lived in their own land are normal. We're giving up the land of 1967 and bringing us back to the same position we were in 1967 when the Arabs went to war with us. Would that bring us peace? Anyone who has ever stood on the hills in Shomron, you can see Tel Aviv from the hill. It's 15 miles away. On a clear day, you can see Dizengoff.
That's there too.
It's insanity. It's madness. What happens when there is a Palestine state? Demilitarized. And they start shooting at you. What will Israel do? Go into it again like Lebanon? Again, in, out. What happens when this new state signs a treaty with the Russians and allows Russian troops into their country? You know, what happens then? And then they start shooting at us. And we go in. And then the Arabs of Israel will go live. I mean, obviously, any Cretan that says that has never spoken to it. And no Arabs who live in Israel want to leave Israel. They believe that that's their home, and it's really Palestine. And someday, that will be part of Palestine, but they're not leaving. They're not leaving. They're staying in this land and working to make it Palestine. They're not leaving. Or when they say if there's a Palestinian state, all the refugees will then go there. All the refugees. There's not one Arab refugee in all Lebanon that comes from Samaria or Judea. Not one. They all come from the Galilee. They all come from Haifa. They all come from Akko. That's where they want to go. No one wants to go back to Shechem because no one comes from Shechem. Uncomfortable question. In Israel, if you go in almost every major city, there is a street named after a man named Raziel. Raziel Street. Raziel. In Jerusalem, and East Alpiot, Kahane, Haifa, many cities. Raziel Street. There was a stamp, an Israeli stamp, with his picture on it, honoring David Raziel. David Raziel. There is Moshe, right outside of Jerusalem, named after Raziel. Mat Raziel. Ramat Raziel, right outside of Jerusalem, right in the corridor. Now, who was this Raziel that has been honored with Moshe, the stand, and streets? He obviously very nice, maybe probably some veteran peace now person. David Raziel was the founder of the Irgun. And in 1937, he made with his own hands the first bomb that was put in the Arab marketplace, which went off and killed 27 Arabs. And it was the retaliation on the part of the Irgun which eventually stopped the attack. Now, bombs went off in Arab marketplace, in Jaffa, in Jerusalem. Hundreds of Arabs were also killed by Jews. Should he be honored? We just put away members of the Jewish underground into prison. Some were accused of trying to put bombs on our buses. Stand. Here a man is honored with a stand to having put a bomb in our marketplace. And here they're being put away into prison for normal. Are we normal? Either burn the stand or let these guys out. Make people think about these things. Raziel's, the anniversary of his death, he was killed in Iraq, or certainly with the British Army in 1940. The anniversary of his death, all the Likud ministers go to his grave, and there's a whole ceremony there. Whom are you honoring? Whom are you honoring? You're honoring a person that did far, far worse than what the same people that the Likud government arrested and sent to prison for. We have to decide. We have to decide our values. We have to decide our values. Next question. Is it normal for us to have a policy of no death penalty for terrorists? I was at the trial of the 4 Arabs who murdered Moshe Tamam, the 19-year-old soldier. I was there. I sat and I heard with my own ears the testimony at that trial. First of all, the murders were Israeli Arabs, something which is always buried. These weren't Arabs from Damascus, or from Jenin, or Karm, or Shechem. These were Arabs from an Israeli village in the Little Triangle, 10 kilometers in the time. Baka Agabi. Baka Agabi is within the green line. It's not even Yossi Sari, as of this moment, wants to give that. That'll be later. That'll be later. These are 4 young Arabs raised as Israelis, speaking fluently, receive everything that Israel gives to loyal Arabs. Education, a job, and a home and the car with which they used to pick up this hitchhiking soldier and kill him. Now, they received a life sentence. And they jumped up, and they all waved V's. And one shouted, hopefully he said, we'll be out within a year in an exchange of prison. He may be right, maybe not a year, but a year, 2 years. So he'll be living at the Raleigh Hilton for 2 years, receiving every single week care packages from the Red Cross, and living under conditions far, far better than that of Jews, because the Jews are just criminals, and these have, unfortunately, been recognized by us as a political type of criminals. And they laugh at us. They kill informers in the prison, and they laugh. What can you do to them? Give them another life sentence? Now, why should an Arab terrorist not murder Jews? What can happen? What's the worst that happen to him? A life sentence? 2 life sentences? 12 life sentences? There's Rabbi Arnold Wolf that I'll be hopefully debating tomorrow in Chicago. His great hero is Martin Buber. And as a young man, he was active with Martin Buber, working against a Jewish state and for a binational state. Now, I think it's important for us to know that when Adolf Eichmann, on the night that Adolf Eichmann was due to be executed, Martin Buber and a group of intellectuals picketed outside Romilly prison to protest the execution. I think it's important for people to realize, because no matter how much you think that you understand the depths of Jewish madness, you do not. No one can plumb the depths. Can you imagine protesting the execution of a man who was responsible for the murder of 3 million Jews? Can you be? And on Jewish grounds, that Judaism is incredible, only God, only because He's God, can He fathom. So know that, and know that if this present Nazi that's on trial, should he be given the death sentence, you'll see far, far bigger protests, far, far bigger, because we've made progress over the years. We've gone more coaching. The question is, the same people that protested the execution of Eichmann, and who also opposed the death sentence for terrorists, is that normal, or is that not normal? Should we allow terrorists a free hand? Because that's what it is. They're not afraid. They're not afraid because they know that the chances of their serving any long sentence are almost negligent. And they wait for an exchange of prison. The bigger question is, and the biggest one is, and it affects the Jews of Israel and here, the biggest question is the whole question of the Jewish identity. Jewish identity, or why be Jewish? When you hear from the liberal and the left, Jewish humanism, and tomorrow I know that Rabbi Wolf will speak about the tradition of Jewish humanism. Well, why talk about Jewish humanism? Just talk about humanism. Why be a Jewish humanist? The moment someone gets up and says, I'm a Jew, the minute he says that, he has created a barrier between Jews and non-Jews. What is Jewish humanism? How is Jewish humanism different than Catholic humanism? I mean, to have mercy, only Jews can have mercy. I'm sure there were some merciful Buddhists around. I know there are merciful Buddhists around. I'm sure there are merciful atheists around. I'm sure there are merciful Muslims around. But there's nothing about being a Jew. Jewishness is an exclusive kind of a thing. It's a limiting thing. It's a narrowing thing. Humanism is the exact opposite. Everybody's a human being. And how many times have I heard this nonsense coming from people? All men are created in God. So, nobody argues about the fact that all human beings are in God's image. And the same Bible that speaks about God's image also speaks about burning the evil out of thy midst. You can't be a selective Bible student. One can't be a selective student, period. You have to swallow the whole thing, look at the whole thing, and build the whole picture. And know when there is a place for mercy and when there is a place for strength and cruelty onto the cruel. Now the question of being Jewish is a question which is going to bring Israel down even quicker than the Arab issue. Because the average person in Israel who supports the Arab stand does so because he doesn't feel Jewish. What does being Jewish mean to a secular Solomon? What does it mean? What does being Jewish mean? God has no place in his thing. The Bible, he doesn't believe in the Bible. It's a book of history. Big deal. So what? When students in Israel study Bible, it's like you study here Shakespeare. It's culture. Of course, so it's primitive culture. Yeah, it's primitive, but it's our culture. It's primitive. I don't take it seriously, of course, but it's nice to have that. Why be Jewish? Who in the world in Israel can explain to a youngster on a kibbutz why he should marry the volunteer from Denmark that's working on his kibbutz? Why not? Why not? Not only is she a good-looking shiksa, but she has a Danish passport and he can live in Denmark. You mean his father and his mother, who have babbled for years about Judaism is a clericalism, it's a backward and a reactionary thing, and so on and so forth. Now he says, I want to marry her, and of course they said, I'll leave your goya, shiksha. He looks at his left-wing parents, who are humanist and progressive types, and enlightened. Mapita, what are we talking about? We're enlightened. Yeah, well, of course we're enlightened, but there's rules, there's a certain limit to being enlightened. Well, there are no limits to being, either you're enlightened or you're not enlightened. So that's their problem. And it's not an accident, not a surprise that 50% of youth leave the kibbutz. It's in a state of bankruptcy, not only money-wise. They have the highest rate of emigration from the country. The highest rate of emigration. Naturally, because you can't create a Jewish nationalism. And then this youngster doesn't know what being Jewish is. And on top of that, he's riddled with guilt that maybe he really stole the country from the Arabs. To have to live with guilt is bad. There is nothing worse than guilt. It's bad enough if there is reason to feel it. Can you imagine if you're a Jew with a propensity to create guilt for no reason? So this Jew walks around, doesn't know what being Jewish is. He only knows that he has to go in the army for 3 years. And every year afterwards for 40 days until the age of 55. And all that, and he has to, and Jewish state, but she doesn't want real. You think that he is so far from the PLO concept of a democratic, secular Palestine? He would only change to a democratic, secular Israel. And then a compromise, a democratic, secular Palestine, Israel. He doesn't care, just leave me alone, just let me live. And we'll all be together. He's a Jew, he doesn't feel Jewish. He has no identity. And someone who doesn't have an identity is not going to be a good fighter either. And that's why in Israel now, you have more and more soldiers who refuse to serve army duty beyond the Green Line in the occupied land. You have soldiers who refuse to do that. You have soldiers who will refuse to fire on Arabs when there's a riot. Now, you don't hear about this. And in a way, that's good, because I think it's not so good that it should be known. But you people should know. It's a problem. When you hold the occupied lands as occupied, you are going to create an erosion of the Jewish soul. If you behave like an occupier, you turn the lands into occupied lands. And who wants? I don't want to be an occupier. If I thought that those lands were not mine, I also would not want to serve them. I don't want to serve them. I don't want to be an occupier. So you don't keep these lands in limbo as they are. This is nonsense about let's have more settlements there. That's nonsense. That's not the answer. Of course I want more settlements. But that's not the answer. That doesn't solve anything. For two reasons. One, if they ever decide to give up the land, they'll give it up if there are 20 settlements or 220 settlements there. When people said they can't give up the Sinai because there's Yamit, what are you talking about? They came with bulldozers and now there's no Yamit. What in the world makes any other place different? There's only one settlement in all of the territories which is as big as that was. And that's it. Today, maybe it's two. There are Arba and Ariya, maybe. They can take most of the settlements, except for those that are just around Jerusalem. Most of the settlements have 20 families, 30 families. And they can't grow bigger because the government doesn't give them work. So they have to drive it through stone every single day. So are the lands occupied lands or aren't they? Well, if you don't annex it, if that land belongs to you, you don't talk about building settlements. You're first of all talking about annexing them and making them part of the state of Israel. That's the first thing. Just like the Galilee, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Hebron, Shechem, they're part of the state of Israel. There's no more Judea, Samaria. Finished. Come out. It's part of this is now Israel. And then whether you build settlements or don't build, that doesn't matter. It's yours. It's yours. You don't have to build settlements so as to guarantee that it won't be given back. Of course it won't be given back because now it's part of the state. That's the immediate answer. And then you won't have to have the leftists running around with their argument to the poor Jews. You see, they're using money for the settlements and not for the poor neighborhoods. If you annex the territories and they're ours, then there's no compelling need to build more settlements because it's ours already permanently now. And then the money can be used for the poor neighborhood. But if you keep them in their present status, in limbo, they are in essence occupied. When you have to hit Arabs, no one likes to hit people. It does something to you. I mean, when I was serving in those areas until I was thrown out, I mean, when I used to serve on army service, I don't like to hit Arabs. Because there's no point to it. You don't benefit from it. you only make this guy even more hateful. And nothing happens. Anything. Throw him out. Throw him out of the country. So then, if he hates you, fine. He hates you from shalom. I don't have people hate me from far. But if they're hating you inside of the country, and they're growing inside, and you have to hit, you have to shoot. I don't want to shoot arrows. I don't want to hit arrows. I just want to throw them out. So that they'll live and be happy elsewhere. I don't want arrows to attack. The question of why be Jewish is going to affect the very existence of Israel. If the sovereign doesn't feel Jewish, he's not going to serve in the army properly. He won't have the incentive. He won't feel justice is on his side. The only reason why we have been able to defeat the Arabs, despite our being a minority, was because we believe that we were right. And when an army feels that it's right, justice is on its side, it can win, it can do tremendous things. But if the soldier doesn't feel that he's right, he's not going to be a good soldier. He won't want to serve you, to try his best to get out of the country. Not only out of the country, you should see sometimes on call-up day, the excuses that they give. Sick, this, incredible excuses. So people don't want to serve. People don't want to serve. It's not that it's not this great legend that American Jews would like to be. They're all Maccabees living in their Russian. It's all baloney. It isn't true. And it could be true. It could be true. But if in the school system, the whole school doesn't, the school's purpose is not to put out a good Jew. First a good Jew. First a Jew. First brainwash this kid from the age of 3. You're a Jew, you're a Jew. It's our country, Jew. And then we'll teach you physics. You don't start off saying that. School system, we have artists, physicists. Forget about that. First a good Jew will be a great anything else. The question of why be Jewish was not only in Israel, it's over here. The reason why intermarriage is raging in this country is because Jewish parents never gave their children a reason why not to. Don't blame. Everybody's running around blaming Jews for Jesus and Jews for... What do you blame? Nobody, no youngster joined Jews for Hare Krishna or Jews for Jesus or Jews for anything else unless no one gave him a reason to be a good Jew. That's the beginning of it. That's the end of it. Rabbi Wolf, who is a Reform rabbi who doesn't believe that Torah comes from Sinai, in a million years cannot explain to any Jewish youngster why he should marry a non-Jewish humanist. And so he said, I and my Irish shiksa will walk down the path of humanism together. What can Rabbi Wolf say? What can he say? How can he explain to a Jewish youngster, no, you have to be Jewish? What? What do we have that she doesn't have? What does Wolf have that she doesn't? Ethics, she has it too. Humanism, she has it too. You don't have to be Jewish to be a humanist. You have to be Jewish to follow the specific Judaism. You have to explain to young Jews that we have something that no one else has. That's a reason to be a Jew. If that's true. If it isn't true, then there's no reason to be a Jew. And that's why young Jews are hopelessly muddled and confused and bewildered and lost. There's no one to be Jewish. Because they see no lot, because they're much more logical than their parents are. Their parents didn't have the guts not to be Jewish. And the Jewish youngster does. He has no hang-ups. That's the uncomfortable thing that drives people crazy. Don't blame anybody except the Jewish family that didn't give the Jewish youngster the most important thing in the entire world, a reason to be a Jew. Jewish education. Without a yeshiva, you will not, except with sheer luck, put out a proud, logical Jew. Unless we build upon the base of the Torah being given at Sinai, being God's word, and we have that which we have the truth. Nobody else has it. If that's true, that's a good reason to be a Jew. And that's a compelling reason to be a Jew. If it's not true, then there is absolutely no reason for this hang-up about being a Jew. And if that's an uncomfortable thing, well, that's the whole purpose. Making Jews uncomfortable and thinking and soul-searching and coming to a decision. I have to decide. I have to go this way or that way. This way or that way. I can't stand here and not be someone. I have to have an identity. It has to be a clear one, or else I'll lose my childhood. That's for sure. That's for sure. What we see now is nothing as compared to what will be in 10 years, 20 years. There are children being born now who never knew any Zabi or any Bubby with any smattering of Jewishness. What can we hope from them? What do I expect from them? How can we blame them? They are totally blameless. They are victims. They are victims. Tragic victims. They were destroyed by their own parents. Who also didn't mean to. What parent means to. But because they were not ready to bite that Jewish bullet, so their children paid for it. They ate the sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. And that's the way it is. There are many, many uncomfortable questions. And that's why I wrote this book. And no question that if they could, they would burn the book. No question. This book, there are things here, just stories that have happened in Israel, which are so unbelievable, not to be believed. The happy story of the Christmas tree and the intermarried family in Kibbutz Yad Mordechai. Here is a kibbutz named after a fellow that lived in Warsaw Ghetto. And here is a family, an intermarried family, some chicks and Christmas trees, and bacon, and pork, and they write about it in such a positive style. How many times does a Jew have to die? Once in the Warsaw Ghetto, and the second time in this way. And a Jew can die twice. Through the chimneys of Auschwitz and through intermarriage and assimilation. That Jew has died. It's a dead Jew. Jews don't. We say Hallel, Hanukkah, and not on Purim. We say the Hallel, praise of God, on Hanukkah, and not on Purim. Why? Because on Purim, they only wanted to kill the Jewish body. But on Hanukkah, they wanted to force the Jews not to be Jewish. And that's worse. Now here's the incredible story. Stories about a mind-boggling. Israel TV wanted to show a half-hour show on intermarriage in Israel. Well, left rose up. It's a racist concept. Racism. So it was not shown. That same week, they wanted to show that play. No. What? Oh, Calcutta. And the censor barred it. The same leftists went to court and overturned it, and it was shown. William Nakash, this French Jew. I don't know what the truth is about his case. He killed an Arab. He says it was because it was anti-Semitic. They want to extradite him. The Minister of Justice said no. I'm not going to extradite him because there's a danger. The left went to court, got an injunction to prevent him from being free and to force the Minister of Justice to extradite. Last week, a Hungarian non-Jew was supposed to be extradited from Israel. He's a con man. Con man stole, robbed, cheated. He wanted in 10 different countries in Europe and also served 4 years for crimes in Israel. Same leftists went to court to demand that he not be executed. And he won, and he's now free. He married a Jewish girl, Nahala. It's really difficult to begin to grasp the depths of this Jewish sect. Who can understand why Moshe Aaron is the height of the hawks? Who can understand Moshe Aaron saying we have to annex the territories and give the Arabs all the rights of citizens? And if that means 40 Arabs in the Knesset, that's the way. Once you accept democracy, you have to accept all the rules of the beginning. Now, I appreciate Aaron's for being an honest person. I don't appreciate the fact that Moshe Aaron's could be the next prime minister of Israel. I don't appreciate the fact that he's not in the Labour government, but in the Likud. I don't think that's normal. Those are the uncomfortable questions, just some of them. It's important for us not to be on the defensive. We should never be on the defensive. We're not in the dock. They are. They are. And we have to go out in every area. And we have the special flyer, a very, very, very short version of this, uncomfortable questions. And we have to give these out at every place where Jews gather. On Sundays, at synagogues, at temples, Jewish affairs, dinners, lunch, whatever it is. Give it out. Give it out. There's nothing more powerful than an ideological weapon. It makes people think. No question. It makes them think. It makes them think. No question about it. It changes them. You may not see it. It changes them. And this is a battle in which we are in an incredible race against time. Israel, the existence of Israel is on the line. It's not a question of, will Israel be a poor state, a rich state, a better state, a worse state? It's a question of, will it be? Will it be? There's a real possibility that if we continue at this present rate, it will not be. And that's why you have to be infected with a sense of urgency. That's the phrase that you have a sense of urgency. Not to be able to sleep, not to be able to eat, because of this immense fear. What will happen if we let these incredible Jewish leaders continue? What will they do to the country? What will happen if the average Jew is allowed to be led in this way? What will happen to him and his child? What will be? A sense of urgency. That's the point. Urgency. We don't have time to sit back and be tranquil. There is no time. We have to correct in a few short years the terrible mistakes and errors and horrors that have been done in Israel, not for the last 40 years, but even before that, for 60 years, what the Ishtar group did and what this labor mafia did. That has to be changed. That has to be changed. There has to be a thorough change, not a couple of band-aids. An operation, a heart transplant. Has to be. We have to. That's what our goal is. And there is a time and a place to be modest, and then there's a time and a place not to be modest, and to know who you are. We are the hope of the Jewish people. We are the hope. And don't be modest about it. Oh, yes, we are the hope. And Believe that. And you have to make this the major priority in your life. The story told, and I'll finish with this. A city Rabbi met a chassid that he hadn't seen for years and years. So he asked him, no. You know what's new? And what are you doing? So he said, I'm in business. So that's nice. And what are you doing? I bought houses. And what are you doing? He said, Rabbi, I told you I'm in business. I put houses. He said, no. That's what God's doing for you. What are you doing? What are you doing in life? That's not what you're doing. That's what are you doing in life? And that's what every Jew has to ask. What am I doing? What am I doing? The years go by really quickly. When you're young, you think, I remember when I was a kid of 7, 8, the summer seemed like 50 years. Summer never ended. Now, the summer going, there you go. And that's the same with the years. That's the way with the years. And they go faster and faster and faster. And the great accountant is up there, and he's waiting. He said, yes, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do with your life? And we have to do these things. So it starts off with the uncomfortable question, and we have the comfortable answers. And don't be ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed of it. We are the ones that will ask the questions. No one, don't let people put you on the defense. Ever. They're on the defense. They're in the dock. Don't let them ever talk to you about violence. You're violent people. They killed Jews. They murdered Jews in cold blood. They didn't hesitate about it. They turned over members of the Irgun to the British. What are they talking about? Don't let them get away with that. They didn't give, in the 1930s, when the British handed out entry visas to Palestine, certificates, they made sure that Beitar didn't get any. Orthodox Jews got only 6%. They made sure of that, and they doomed Jews to be killed in Europe. Don't let them get away with this stuff. Kastner was their person. It was their people. When Dolbear Weissmandel, one of the great, when he appealed in the early 40s to the joint, the JDC, for monies. And when they for money in 1942, the Nazis were ready to ransom 40,000 Jews. 40,000 Jews. And they didn't give the money. So, let them be on the defensive, and not us. And not us. Because they're the ones that murdered Jews, and they're the ones that never felt the Jewish pain. And they're the ones that wiped out Sephardic Jews, wiped them out as Jews. So don't talk. And when they talk about, Jewish laws and halakha, and you're going to force us, you want to talk about forcing Jews, coercion. They coerced and they destroyed Jews, Sephardic Jews, by the hundreds of thousands. They forced them to go to Kibbutzim, and they forced them to Moshavim, and they took from them forcibly Judaism. And they're talking about force over here. So let's not get into this hang of feeling guilty. They're the ones, and expose their past. Expose it. And that's why in this book, the very first chapter, I said, we have to start off with painful knowledge of who these people are and what they did. So that's the first step. Get out of the defensive, and let's hit at them until they admit what they did. Teddy Kollek had it. a Haganah unit that kidnapped Irgun soldiers and turned over to the British. That's a fact. That's a fact. Why let him get away with this pointing and talking about we have to love Arabs and love people? He may love Arabs, but he hates Jews. So that's only some of it. There's a great deal more, but we haven't got time. Are there any questions? And I don't know what. We have seven minutes for questions if you have them, and then bagels. Yes.
Just one thing that I've noticed since I'm in Israel, aside from the fact that you're certainly on a groundswell of support for Hashem, but many Israelis will back you on the Arab issue, but they're afraid that you're going to make them religious. And you won't sell the Yom. So, I think that, I know that you feel that at some point you will say what you have to say about that, but I was listening on the way up here to the press club, when you were at the press club, and you spelled it out specifically that you will never have you'll never force anyone to be what they don't want to be, and that the Jewish state will more or less evolve in and of itself.
The fact of the matter is that that's not, it's not, what I said was that we would not impose as a minority our will upon a majority. But certainly, if through the democratic process, and we allow the democratic process, and we will allow it, and if through that process a majority of people decides willingly that there should be a Shabbat bill, then there will be a Shabbat bill. But first there will be a bill establishing a 5-day work week, so that on Sunday, from Saturday night through Monday morning, they can play, as I mentioned last night, whatever they want. Football, no ball. Whatever they want to do, they can play ball all day, they can travel, go to the beach, whatever they want. Go. We will give them exactly what they have now, a totally free day. And plus, we're throwing in a bonus called Shabbos. And the Shabbos will not be, what I say is, we certainly won't enter people's homes to see, are you keeping Shabbos? That's absurd. But the public character of Israel will be Jewish. The public character. We're not going to check out if people in their homes are eating pork or bacon. We're going to check. But certainly no restaurant in Israel will serve pork or okay? Where is a national pride? What Arab country? Find me a restaurant in any Arab country that serves pork. They don't do that. In terms of national pride. Furthermore, we intend doing something which once and for all, I'm sick and tired of Jews talking about. There's a political topic and a topic which is dat. This is dat. Shabbat is not an issue of dat. It is not an issue for Orthodox Jews. Our Knesset list in this next Knesset is made up of non-observant Jews too. And we are going to specifically, all the legislation dealing with dat, Shabbat, Kashrut, will all be the ones that will introduce those bills will deduct the people without yarmulkes. So that we'll start putting an end to this nonsense. Well, Shabbat is a question for Orthodox Jews. It's a Jewish issue. Shabbat is a Jewish. It is a national Jewish issue. It's a national Jewish issue. And specifically, someone with a beard and black coat is going to raise only those things like not giving up land and throwing out the Arabs and so on, so that we'll stop putting an end to this nonsense in the Torah world. Well, Arabs, that's a political question. No such thing as a political question. Judaism is made up of a totality of life. There's no difference between, we have laws about the Arabs and laws about Shabbat. Laws of Kashrut and laws about not giving up land. and they're all the same laws, and in the Rambam, you won't find the laws of Halakha. He has laws of Kavod, and those are Torah laws exactly like eating blood kosher. He doesn't have Kavod. In fact, he doesn't have blood kosher. But he does have laws of Kavod. Yeah.
Rabbi, I come from an area where there are very few Jews who are not bleached out.
Bleached out?
Bleached out Jews.
Yeah.
In trying to appeal to them, I doubt very much that an argument based on halakha, or that the land was promised to us by God, would move them. It ought to move them, but it won't. And I'm not eloquent enough to hope that I could do it. Do you think it is a quicksand? Do you think it's a self-defeating argument to attempt to reason with these Jews through considerations of sheer practicality? If you give the Arabs a separate state in Qumran, Yehudah, then there'll be a compromise and everything will be okay, or it's worthwhile taking the risk. Do I get into a slippery slope there? Is there no hope for an argument based on sheer practicality?
There is always hope. There's always hope. Argue. Argue. Discuss. First of all, you can't save the whole world. But if you start off by trying to save the whole world, you may save part of it. If you write off part of that world right off the bat, you're going to save many, many less people than perhaps otherwise might. I can tell you one story which may help you to maybe see this. 10, 15 years ago, I received a letter in Israel from someone who started by writing off, "My name is so-and-so," he said, "and you don't know me. But I was at the University of Texas when you spoke." I remember that. This person got from the University of Texas was fitted there by Arabs and by Trotskyists. Now, the Arabs were, of course, Arabs, and the Trotskyists were, of course, Jewish. It was a pretty wild thing. I mean, it was an actual fight. One Arab jumped up on top of him, the microphone, hit him in his head. It was a hole. Anyway, now he continued in this letter. He says, "I stayed to hear you speak, and when I left 2 hours later, I was very confused." And he said, Eventually I joined Hillel, became the student president, formed a JDO chapter, and now intend to live in Israel. And here's a fellow. I didn't know he was alive. He talked to me, questioned me, speak to me. He spoke to a crowd. He was in that crowd. Heard, went out, and changed. You never know what you'll do. If you plant a seed, when the rain comes, the sun shines on it, it may sprout. But if there's no seed there, all the rain and all the sun is not going to help. So plant your seeds. Go discuss. Go out and be a prophet onto the prophet. There may not be much profit, there may be loss, but that's the fact is, though, that if you save one, you know how ahead you are. Of course, argue with them and discuss with them, and not only on practical matters. Don't be afraid to talk to them as a Jew. Mention God. Don't be afraid of it. You'll be amazed how many Jews would like to be more Jewish than they are. But they don't know how to, ashamed to. And if only someone would come and say, all right, that's what they're looking for. I was on a plane. Last trip. I was on a horse. And one of the stories, Meir walked over and he said, Kahane, and he was Jewish. And he was a Jew for Jesus. And he sat next to me for 20 minutes. He didn't work. And at the end, he said, look, I like to learn more about Judaism. When I said to him, you don't get into an argument with him. You don't argue on plain with Jesus. He said, what do you know about Judaism that led you to first want to study about Jesus? He said, well, nothing. Before you throw out what you have, learn about it. In the end, he said, okay, send me books. And who knows whatever happened? I sent them. Who knows? I don't know. But you never know. You just have to try. You have to do it. Yeah. That's, yes.
Rabbi, I heard you say that
That's it, the last one, yeah.
when you're in power, you will eliminate the work on Sunday in Israel, and that you
Right.
attempt to introduce capitalism,
Right?
and in other ways make life in Israel more attractive to Western society.
Right.
I have not heard the message before you said it. That is, it is not generally known. I wonder why it's not generally known and what effect it would have on Aliyah in America.
Well, I think that... okay. Now.
Okay. Okay. Just in terms of tomorrow's schedule, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
The basic reason why you haven't heard about these other views is simply because the news media simply will not carry. The only thing that they'll carry is the kind of things that I say that is drama. You know, Arabs and excitement and so on and so forth. Because that's what news media are. In this book, I have a whole chapter on all those issues which nobody ever talks about. And so, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote it. But essentially, news media is interested, they are interested only in things that have drama and exciting and violence and blood is what sells newspapers or gives ratings. That's a pity, right? It's real tragedy. But please God, you know, as we get power, and as they're forced to open up the airwaves to us and the newsprint to us, so of course we'll mention this more and more. Of course we will. And you know, when I'm on radio shows, I do speak about it here in Israel. Of course, I have no chance to get on radio and TV. I'm barred from that, but. At rallies, it's it is popular, but you don't hear about those rallies because it's not covered in the papers. But in any case, time is really on our side. In a certain way, that's not a happy statement because part of the reason why time is on our side is because as things get worse for Israel, we gain in strength. So more and more people will hear about that. Scout's out of the last question, really. Really the last one. That's
okay. I'll make it very brief. The Rockland County chapter of Kahane, I believe I'm the only Muncie member. We told us not to be defensive. And that alone is a statement in itself.
Yes.
It may be a controversial question, but I'd like to know how, when, if you'll make peace with the religious right, both in Israel and America.
Well, first of all, I'm not at war with them, so I mean, I don't have to make peace with them. Secondly, anyone is free to come to my meeting, to read my book, to read this, to make up his own mind. What do you mean? What do you mean the right? There are many people in Israel who fall into that camp, who are going to be voting God. Many. And I think that there's a big difference between a right-wing Orthodox Jew in Israel and over here. The right-wing Orthodox Jew in Israel is much, even though he's an anti-Zionist, is much closer to Israel than one who lives in Muncie. Much more so. Because most of them do serve in the army. Anyway, even though there's this image that they don't serve. It isn't true. Only 16,000 don't serve. All the rest serve. So when someone serves in the army, I don't care what his views are about Herzl. I mean, I don't like Herzl either. That's not the point. But if you serve in the army, you can't be against the state in the same way that in Muncie there's a luxury of, sitting in Muncie and talking about all the atheists and the apocryphal and all that. So you'll be amazed at how many votes we're going to be getting from that sector. In fact, we're going to take at least 2 seats from Shas and Agudat Israel. At least 2 seats from them, from their own people, and I don't criticize them. I don't walk out when they speak. They walk out when I speak. I vote with them on their issues. They never vote with me on any issue. And people know that. You can't fool people in Israel because it's a tiny country and people hear about it a lot. So it isn't a question. And the ultimate answer to you is, when we have 10 seats in Knesset and we have a lot to say about which institutions get money, you'll be amazed how they come to me. That, unfortunately, for so many people is the name of the game. It's sad that it's with them also. But that, in the end, is the thing. When we're in the position to give millions of dollars to these groups and institutions, you'll be amazed how they'll make peace with me. Because deep down, there isn't one of them that doesn't know that what I'm saying is Torah truth. And they know it. If I could have taped the times that I spoke with very, very, very great rabbis, just taped it, and so that you could hear what they said privately to me, it would be a totally different world. But they don't say it in public. That's the problem. Okay.
That chair was so uncomfortable.
These are very uncomfortable.
That chair was slanted forward. This safe, that's going to make that great. It's a safer, isn't it?
Rabbi, I didn't get a chance to ask my question. In the old days, when I just went to Hebrew school, we went to all the Soviet Jewry rallies. We had busloads going. We went to all the Yom HaTzmaut parades. Now that I'm from and I send my kids to a yeshiva, they're very fine. There's no mention of the Soviet Jewry rallies. They don't send buses. They don't have a Yom HaTzmaut program.
It's an outrage.
I don't understand it. Maybe you can explain it.
Of course, the matter is that you come to the end of Judaism, it's because money. There were 2 kinds of Jewish provisions. So they've been on one side. And there were those that were extremists. God made it. That's what Jews must make. So that's the picture. We lost it, of course, these yeshivas just as the majority. When I speak of the authentic Jewish idea, it's precisely because we want to think that what Rosh Hashivas are doing. Either they enjoy it or don't. Whatever the others have to sit from the and we'll think of it. Neither one is the authentic Jew. That's why I hope that the yeshiva, which we're starting, so in Hillel, will start to put out that kind of Jew. But you're right, you have a real problem. In Israel, it's the only place where you can get a fine yeshiva, a good yeshiva, and at the same time.
Can I just
Yes.
talk to you for a second? 5 seconds. 5 seconds.
The power couple is my roommate. We're talking to him about how's Richard Proper?
He's not that active. He's our treasurer. Take off the glasses.
Whatever. Tell me about what you're doing here today.
I'm having a wonderful time at Chalet Vim.
Were you alone?
No, I was with Rabbi Meir, Kahane, the future Prime Minister of Israel.
How many people would you say you
And the
had?
Koch family, we had about 135 people, and we had a wonderful, wonderful Torah weekend.
I see you have a box here to your side. What's there?
Box here, we have Rabbi's latest book, which is Uncomfortable Questions for Comfortable Jews. And this should really shake up the Jewish establishment. In fact, this is a book that they're trying to ban and even suggested burning.
Where can one obtain such a copy?
One can obtain this copy wherever the rabbi speaks or from the Jewish Idea Office, which you can call for information, 718-646-7301.
What would you say the most important thing that happened this weekend was?
I think that it was all of us, people who believe in the rabbi's ideas, got together and shared these ideas and discussed them with the rabbi and learned more about what's going on in Israel and the terrible tragedy that faces our people, and that time is running out for the Jewish people, and that we Jews, it's up to us to do it now. We can change Jewish history.
Thank you very much, Miss Nikki Spivak.
Nikki Spivak.
Gentlemen, what are your names?
My name is Sunshine, Herbert Sunshine.
Stop moving. It's moving pictures, but I only want to get your voice.
All right.
Can you tell me what was your response this weekend?
I think it was a very good weekend. I was surprised to see how few people can do so much work, and what an effect so few people can seem to have, and what dedication, and great admiration for people who have such dedication.
Great, thank you very much. Where are you from?
Brooklyn.
And how did you find the weekend?
Baruch Hashem was very beautiful. Dedicated that a Jew should care for his religion. Very vital.
Great. Thank you very much.
But I have to see it. Is it a new,
Your name is?
is it a new toy? Leah Brooks?
Leah Brooks. Did you say
Friends
toy?
of Koch.
This is a tool. This is a tool to help us
This is a
get
tool
across
to
the
help us
message.
Get across the message.
Can you tell me what your reaction was to this weekend?
I think this weekend was sensational. The spirit was high, and the interest was very, very stimulating. And I would come again and again. I think we should have many more like this. The rabbi left very elated, and we need to continue to encourage him by supporting all of these situations for him.
Thank you very
Pray
much.
that he will be the Prime Minister of our Holy Land.
Thank you very much. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Your name is?
Barbara Axelrod,
And where are you from, Barbara?
Palisades Park, New Jersey.
How did you come to this weekend?
Well, I came by myself and I've enjoyed it. My only regret is that I didn't bring other people with me, and I hope in the future to do that.
Is this the first time that you've heard or been with Rabbi Kahane?
I've heard him two times before, and I always learn new things from him.
Great. Thank you very much. Your name is? Chaya what? How did you find this weekend, Chaya Davula?
It was great.
Is this the first time you've met Rabbi Kahane?
Yeah.
And what did you think of him?
He's good. He's got the right ideas.
Where do you go to school?
Tag.
Tag? What is that? I know Tag Yarit. I know the game, but what is Tag?
School.
A school. What kind of school?
A girls' school.
A girls' school. What kind of girls' school?
Girls' school for girls.
Is it a public school?
No, it's a yeshiva.
It's yeshiva. And what grade are you in?
5th. Don't use all of that.
Is there anything that you learned this weekend that you didn't know before?
More about Israel.
And
about the Arabs.
And anything else? You coming again next year?
Yeah.
Mir Hashem. Very good. Thank you very much, Chaya Basidabula.
Hello.
Your names are?
Alan Saunders, Yochanan Michael.
Yochanan Michael, and your name is?
You know me.
Your name is?
Baruch.
Baruch. Shalom Aleichem Baruch. And
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah. Tell me, gentlemen, how was your weekend?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. That's a good expression.
Hang out with Lubavitchers long enough. Every other word's either Baruch Hashem, Kanahara, Amhis Hashem.
Well, for bringing.
For bringing.
And have you heard Rabbi Kahane before? Is this your first time?
I'm waiting for the click that. What's it, a video?
This is a video.
Think about it.
Rabbi Kahane spoke in Albany about 2 years ago at Congregation Beth Abraham. Rabbi Moshe Bomzers follows the Young Israel of Ocean Parkway, the Rabbi of Young Israel of Ocean Parkway. Because they're big. Rabbi Kahane used to go to the Bomzers 25 years ago for Shabbos meals. So he's got allies in Albany.
Interesting reconnection. How was the response to him?
He's pretty. A lot of people like him in Albany. Plus, he stays with Rabbi Reuben the Lubavitch Shliach whenever he comes to Albany. And so he's got a lot of people who sympathize with him. I don't know if we can get them all to become card-carrying members, but they're people there who support him.
Great. Baruch, tell me your experience.
I saw him at the Shara Tefillah. You ever hear of that place? It's in a place called Far Rockaway. Years ago, before it burnt down, and they built that new one.
Yes.
And I saw him about 4 other times. Now this weekend.
Did you come randomly, or are you involved at all with?
No, I wasn't. I hadn't been. I got a thing in the mail about this weekend.
You happy you came?
Yeah.
Very good. Are you going to be trying to get more involved in the future?
I've been thinking about that, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Bob.
Hello, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Don't get too close.
Oh, all
okay? Nothing personal, just want to get you in the frame here. Okay, your name is?
Shireen Levine.
And where are you from, Shireen?
I live in Brooklyn now. I'm formerly from Syracuse, New York, but I live in the Borough Park section of Brooklyn.
Great. And is this the first time that you've been to hear Rabbi Kahane?
Oh no, I've had the pleasure of hearing Rabbi Kahane on several occasions. As a matter of fact, I brought him up to my synagogue in Syracuse and introduced him on the stage. And it was very nice. I've been a long follower of Rabbi Kahane. When you recognize the truth, you just usually stick with it.
Great. And thank you very much for your
reaction. Thank you.
Take care. Be well. See you.
Bye-bye. Zaygadson.
Table mate. We eat together.
So one man says.
They say the way to a man's heart is his stomach. So you and I have been heart to heart together.
We broke bread.
We broke bread.
My sweetheart.
Your name is? Your name is?
Eddie.
Eddie. And Eddie, where are you from, Eddie?
Bayside.
Bayside.
Are you going to come and break bread with me?
That's right. Eddie, tell me, is this the first time you've heard Rabbi Kahane?
Is this publication?
This may very well be.
Mr. Kahane is my idol.
Yes?
Yes. My best friend after Haya. Haya and Haya. Haya means life.
This is the first time you've heard Rabbi Kahane?
No, several times, but I'm always more and more impressed with every meeting.
I appreciate your reaction.
Yes.
Take care, be well. Thank you.
Yes.
Business.
Okay.
Hi, how are you? Your name is?
My name is Norma Weena.
Norma, where are you from?
I'm from Woodmere.
Woodmere. Oh, I know the area.
Right. And
she's in real estate, just like you.
Oh, yeah? Oh, boy.
And I'm a great Kahane fan.
Of long standing, or?
Well, my husband also... he's the greatest Kahane.
How did you get connected initially with Rabbi Kahane?
I think he can date it back.
Well, approximately.
I don't even remember how long ago.
It's been a while.
We get more and more involved slowly.
Great. Maybe you can make May 18th at our home with some friends.
I would like to.
Yeah, great. Super.
Your home in Far Rockaway.
Yes. Love to see you.
Okay.
What would you say the most important thing that came out of the weekend for you was?
Well, the most important thing is I understand Kahane's feelings better, and I agree with him. I wish I can convince other people to start feeling the way they do and let him into their heart and their soul, and his ideas are the most important, because what I hear about Israel now makes me very upset.
Are you involved in the unusual Woodmere at all?
I know many Israelis in Israel. In fact, my house
You involved in young
In other words,
Israel
where the Jews were, those countries.
I go to young Israel of no, young Israel of women. Yes, we both go.
Rabbi Billets.
Yes, yes. I have one Orthodox.
Okay, alrighty. That's okay. Well,
And
what do they say? They're the people who are Orthodox and people who are going to become Orthodox.
Right. I'm on my way.
Okay, very good.
I'll be coming here in 2 weeks to the retreat.
Super.
And, maybe I'll learn something.
Well, we learn every day. Thank you.
Right?
My name's Avi. Your name is?
Nancy.
Nancy, where are you from, Nancy?
East Islip, Long Island.
Is this the first time that you've been to hear Rabbi Kahane?
Yes, it is.
And curious to know what your reaction is. Honestly.
I enjoyed all of the meetings that I went to, and he's a much more low-key person than I think he's built up to be.
So your opinion of him, to a certain extent, was changed having been here for the weekend?
Yes, definitely.
That's great. I want to tell you...
I'm glad to see that my mom is involved with such lovely people.
Your mom is a lovely person, as is her daughter, and I want you to know that you should be very proud. Your mother is in the forefront of writing history today. So what she's doing is very important, and you should have nachas from her. She should have nachas from you and your family. You have a lovely family that we're really happy that we had a chance to meet, because we heard nice things about you.
Thank you.
Maybe we get you all over for the weekend one day and have our kids play with your kids.
Sounds great.
Terrific. Thank you, Nancy. Your name is?
Joanne.
Joanne. Joanne, where are you from, Joanne?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. What part of Brooklyn?
Park Slope.
Park Slope. Nice area. Having a nice, good investment for brownstones for me.
We'll talk.
We'll talk.
We'll talk.
Okay, great. Is this the first time that you've had a chance to hear Rabbi Kahane?
No, it's not.
How long are you involved with having heard him?
About 3 years.
Where did you hear him first?
I met Rabbi Kahane several years ago.
Had you been reading? Have you ever seen his articles prior to that in the Jewish press?
Sure. Sure I have.
And was your opinion different from meeting him in person than it was having heard about him and read about him?
Well, no, because they sort of happened simultaneously.
They happened simultaneously. I see. And did you have a nice weekend here?
Lovely weekend. Perfect.
What would you say the nicest thing about the weekend was for you?
Oh, it was just a good feeling to be with people who were not violently in disagreement.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Joseph Fishman.
And where are you from, sir?
Montreal.
Montreal. And where are you from prior to that, Mr. Fishman?
Prior from that, I come from Europe, from Eastern Europe.
What part of Eastern Europe?
Romania.
Romania. And when did you come to Montreal?
1948, after the war from Germany.
I understand. And can you tell me, this is your first experience listening to Rabbi Kahane?
Rabbi Kahane was invited to Montreal by our organization.
Which organization was that?
That's the Association of Survivors.
You had brought him up with an organization which is called what?
The Association of Survivors. It was the first Canadian organization.
Role and power. This will be a valuable documentary.
The people behind the man.
That's what goes on in
Future Prime Minister of Israel, Rabbi Kahane.
See,
Can you tell me what is your name?
My name is Karen.
Karen, where are you from?
I'm better known as Mrs. Rambo.
Ms. Rabbi, and how did you get that curious name?
Well, I wrote some articles that appeared in the Providence Journal and the non-Jewish Herald, really the Jewish Herald. And I wrote an article on vengeance, and that gave me the name of Mrs. Rambo Dove. People wrote in attacking my article in support of Rabbi Meir Kahane.
How long are you involved with Rabbi Meir Kahane?
I hate it.
You like to say I voted for the guy who won.
All my adult life.
Till now.
How did you first come into contact with him, if you recall?
How did I come in contact with
Rabbi Kahane?
Oh, well, I guess at the beginning of JZL when we rioted against the Russian diplomats on behalf of Soviet Jewry.
What do you think the most important issue that he's espousing right now is for the Jewish people?
Oh, there's so many. Bringing Jews back to Judaism, alerting the Jewish community at large of the things that are going on in Israel, how the Arabs could outnumber us. politically take over the Knesset, and God forbid, take Israel away from us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now,
The man on the
he
street.
forgot that he said this. He doesn't remember that he said, and no way in the Knesset.
The man on the street, Larry Dove.
Yes, hi. Excuse me, your name is?
Larry Dove.
And where are you from?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Uh-huh.
Part of the Yankee capitalism, New England.
Uh-huh, great. And
Did
tell
anybody
me,
ever say to you, rub-a-dub-dub?
Quite often.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
have you been involved with Rabbi Kahane for a while?
Yes, in fact, I have one of the few people who have the chus to say that Rav Kahane was my Rebbe in high school.
Which high school is
Ninth
that?
grade in YCQ, Queens.
And
he taught me Machshavas Yisrael.
what was he like way back when? What's your recollection?
He's the same way. He was always honest, he was always direct, and he was always to the point, and he never deceived anybody. And he always quoted halacha the way it was and the way it is. And he's one of the few people I know today who you could quote something from 15 years ago, and he says the same thing today.
What was your reaction, Larry, to the weekend?
It was great. Wonderful experience. For the first time in quite a while, I talk to people and I don't feel like I'm in a minority.
It's a nice feeling to be in a
It's a
minority.
nice feeling to see other people who are normal, who know the right way as well.
When you say normal, can you go back and give me an idea what you're talking about?
Normal in the sense of people who are able to see the difference between black and white. Don't have any smoke screens in between, or don't have to rationalize or deceive themselves into believing something that doesn't exist.
Well, like what issue would you be specifically referring to?
Well, the fact of two issues particularly. One is the issue of the future of American Jewry. There's a misconception that wealth and power and money can stop the wave of assimilation and destruction of Jewry. You even see it among the conservative and reform movement. There was a recent study done that shows that in the year 2030 there won't be any Reform Jews left. I've always asked the Reform Jews in my community whether they're willing to sign over the deed to their shul for Orthodox causes for 30 years from now. The other issue is the reality that Israel cannot go on its present course. People feel that we can buy the Arabs off with toilets, with money, with power, but it's all a deception. We either have a Jewish state or we don't. That's a simple choice. I think people have gotten away from the basic concepts of yes and no.
Larry, thank you very much. Okay, your name is?
Fern Dobular,
Where are you from, Fern?
Far Rockaway,
Uh-huh.
a.k.a. West Lawrence.
Uh-huh. How did you find this weekend?
Oh, I had a wonderful time. Everything was the best. The food was delicious. The weather was fantastic. The people were friendly. Can't think of a bad thing to say.
Uh-huh. Have you been involved with Rabbi Kahane long?
Actually, only recently. I've heard him speak several times in the last few months, and I think he makes very valid points where nobody else really seems to speak to the issues, and nobody has any solutions. And I think he has his pulse on what's happening today and where the problems are, and I hope he's going to be the answer to the future.
Fern, Rabbi Kahane has been around for quite a while, and yet you've only really heard him and been involved with him for the last several months rather. What was your reaction to Rabbi Kahane? I mean, you must have known about him.
Well, I think that he's really had a bit of a public relations problem because...
What kind of camera is that?
This is a video camera, compact video camera. Your names are?
Friedman.
Friedman. Where are you from, Mrs. Friedman?
Bernard and Judy Friedman.
Yonkers. And is this your first time hearing Rabbi Kahane in person?
First time here?
Yeah. Yes. Now, is this your first time hearing Rabbi Kahane in person?
Didn't hear you.
Is this your first time hearing Rabbi Kahane?
Oh, no. No. I've heard Rabbi Kahane for years.
For years, Has your opinion always been consistent of him?
I didn't hear that.
Has your opinion always been consistent of him?
Yes, it was high to begin with, and, well, maybe it got higher, so it's not consistent.
Okay, that's great. What issues are you most in agreement with him on, or what issues do you feel are burning issues that you're very supportive of his position?
The importance of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, for the
continued existence of the Jewish people. That's what I gather from him.
And Ms. Friedman, your position, what do you say?
I think it's about the same.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
How are you?
Great. Baruch Hashem. Your name is?
Pesach Javelin.
Pesach, where are you from?
Brooklyn.
What part of Brooklyn?
Flatbush.
Flatbush. Is this your first time?
No, I've seen Rabbi Kahane many times.
And what attracted you to Rabbi Kahane?
Speaks about the need for strong Jewish identity, about Teshuvah, issues about the American Jewish community and how it's gone astray, and the reason we have some of the problems we do. And he's a strong force for Jewish strength and Jewish continuity.
Have you enjoyed the weekend?
Yes, very much.
What was the highlight for you?
Hearing Rabbi Kahane speak, meeting other faculty members from around the country.
Great, thank you very much.
Are you actually shooting?
Say that again?
The little light's got to come on. When you're shooting, you've got a little red light coming on.
Well, it's shooting now.
Well, why isn't there a little red light on?
Well, it's a deceptive VCR. So we try to get you when you don't know you're being...
famous. You're going to be very famous.
Well, your name is?
My name is Yehuda Stebbins. I'm pleased to meet you.
Where are you from, Yehuda?
I'm from Detroit. Actually, I'm not. I shouldn't say I'm Detroit. I'm from Southfield.
Alrighty, and but your accent is
English.
English. English like
English from England, from
the
London.
mother country.
Like from Golders Green.
Golders Green. Good place.
You've heard that place?
Has this been your first time hearing Rabbi Kahane?
I have been to a number of Rabbi Kahane's lectures. Okay, I say that I have been to some of Rabbi Kahane's lectures in the Detroit area and some of the Fala meetings. It's the first time I've ever gone really out of my way to hear what he had to say.
I'm sorry, this is the
first time I've gone out of my way, really out of my way to hear what Rabbi Kahane would say.
And what would you say attracted you to Rabbi Kahane in the first place?
How did you get
his claim to non-frill Judaism. Yiddishkeit without too much political motivation. I felt that a number of the things he was saying about Israel... Yeah, he's putting me on tape. That's my daughter talking to me over there.
Okay.
Okay. A number of things he would say about Israel, about the situation, just coincided with the way I used to feel about the rights of Arabs and the rights of Jews. I always felt that Jewish people were taking maybe a second position to those of the Arabs, and yet this was a Jewish national homeland. And we're going out of our way more to be more condescending to the Arabs than to our own people, and I felt this was weighed the wrong way. So when I heard Rabbi Kahane express the same philosophies, it sort of tied into what my views were on Eretz Israel.
Are you happy that you went out of your way to be here this weekend?
I enjoyed the weekend. It was very, very pleasant. A lot of very nice people I met, a lot of interesting people. I was more pleased with the level of the presentations. I was much higher than I thought. The intellectual presentation was at a much higher level, a much higher madrega than I thought they were going to be at. I thought there'd be a lot of chanting and fist clenching and rally type of thing, but it wasn't. It was on a sophisticated intellectual basis. The people knew what they were talking about. They were well presented, well prepared, and it was done at a very, very well, at a high level.
It's interesting that prior to coming here, I've heard a lot of comment that Rabbi Kahane really doesn't have that much support among the Orthodox community, that most of the support comes from the Spartan community, and yet you wouldn't know it being here today. Well, how would you react to that?
I think that if a person is Orthodox, he will have to either lean one of two ways. He's either going to be very much in favor of what Rabbi Kahane is expressing, or he's going to be very much opposed to it. I don't think he can take a midstream view. The traditional yeshiva world is, unfortunately, at this particular time, not that much in favor of Rabbi Kahane's philosophy.
What do you think is keeping them away from it?
I think it's a basic halacha, a basic understanding of what the Mashiach and of all the Mashiach, and also based upon the Memshalah, the state itself right now, that it lacks, it's devoid of any Yiddishkeit. I think if Rabbi Kahane achieves his objective, I think a good percentage of the yeshiva world will in fact change their views, because that will eliminate what they are holding right now as being their obstacle to supporting Kahane. So the support from the Yiddish community can come very easily once Kahane achieves his objective.
Thank you very much, Yuda.
So, do they object or they agree?
Oh no, the Torah state, the majority of the yeshiva world agreed to a Torah state.
So what do they have against his ideas right now? They don't want to back them.
They want to distance themselves from the state of Israel, because as of right now, it is a very secular state. And therefore, most of the yeshiva world are not what you could call Zionistic in any way, regardless if it's Kahane or any other political party. So once they achieve his objective and can make it a Torah state, then I think a lot of the yeshiva world would in fact become Zionistically inclined.
But he's not a Republican Party or a Democratic Party. He wants to be a Torah state. He wants it to be a Jewish state. He wants them to keep Shabbat, and he wants them to not drive on Shabbat and have certain laws pertaining to that. In Borough Park, they don't drive on Shabbat. They don't have the laws anyway. No Jewish people drive on. They pay $500,000 for a house to be in the Torah area.
You're not trying to convince a person right now who already believes me. I was stating the view of the yeshiva world as I see it. The question is, why does the yeshiva world not want to support Kahane at this particular time? Because right now it's an idea. It's not it's a fact. It's not done.
What do you mean by an idea?
It's an idea, it's a philosophy, it's a thing, and will the philosophy support it? It's another philosophy with another ideology, which is a Zionistic idea. And right now the idea of Zionism is secularism. And they think it's Hashem, but there are things going on in Eretz Yisrael, which is going on in Eretz Yisrael right now.
Excuse me, your name is?
Leslie Silverman.
And where are you from, Leslie?
Brooklyn, New York.
What part of Brooklyn?
Ocean Parkway in Kings Island.
Is this the first time you've heard Rabbi Kahane speak?
Yes.
What was your thinking coming up for the weekend before you heard him?
I think he has a bad reputation.
Was that your opinion of him prior to coming?
Prior, yes.
What was his reputation that turned you off prior to coming?
And I didn't think about it. It never turned me off, but the rumors and the things that you hear about him, that he's violent, and he has different means of coming to his point.
Leslie, he's been around for quite a while, and yet taking you all this long to sort of come and listen to him.
I just came here for a weekend to get away from the grind of everything.
And what was your reaction to the weekend, Leslie?
The rumors are not true, what I heard by speaking to the man. But I think he wastes a lot of his time talking to nonsensical people, like this meeting that he has in Chicago. I think it's meaningless. Because he's talking to a reformed rabbi that I think must have graduated on a course of raising lobsters and shrimps. So I don't know why he's wasting his time. You would never get the chief rabbi of the Sephardic community to have a meeting with a reformed rabbi. He won't waste his time. His time's too valuable.
Maybe his purpose is to be able to get the exposure, the identity of the community, which so far is lacking. Unfortunately, traditional Jewish establishment prevent him from giving up to talk. So at least he can go out and talk. There's going to be some people who hear what he has to say, and maybe that itself will grow, because if he can't speak to anyone except he committed already, then it's difficult for him to grow in any way.
Perhaps they'll have a similar reaction that you seem to have had a positive reaction to being here.
But he's not speaking in front of a group of people of Orthodox Jews. I think he would be better off putting his time in, no matter how small the yeshiva, no matter how small the congregation is, and presenting his thing to Orthodox Jews. And even if he would win a smaller amount of people, it would be stronger in his favor.
Let me give you tell you a story of what happened at a meeting maybe 5 or even longer years ago in Michigan. Birmingham Temple, which is run by a gentleman named Sherman Weiss, goes under a title of rabbi. He is the leader of the Humanistic Jewish Society in America. And he debated Mr. Wine, and he grew a large crowd, a very, very large crowd. And I'll never forget one of the comments, one of the things that happened at our particular meeting was when a gentleman stood up in the crowd, in the audience, and very articulately said, Rabbi, you offended me. I am a Gentile, and everything you've said so far offends me. And the Rabbi, without flinching, looked him straight in the eye and said, well, maybe, but I still don't want my son to marry your son. And of course there was a lot of astonishment in the audience, shocked with everything. Fancy coming up with something, why are you offending a Gentile? But he was offending.
He got offended.
I still don't want my son to marry your son. But nevertheless, maybe in that audience there were 5 people who 2 years later have said that there was some sense in what that gentleman was talking about. He doesn't seem to be violent. He doesn't seem to be having the label that everyone's painting him with it. And he ends up 5 years later. He had a nice weekend in the Catskills, many, many miles from Detroit, $1,500 less in your pocket because you had to bring your whole family here. And you're here to try to see what Kahane's all about.
Your name is?
My name is Yecheskel Shandor. I am now the social director for Kahane International. That's a new title that's been given to me as of an hour ago.
Well, I would say that's an important function.
I'm also the leafleting coordinator. I work as part of the singles coordinator. I'm a jack of all trades.
Great. Can you tell me how long you've been involved with Rabbi Kahane?
I've been involved with Rabbi Kahane. I've been involved with Kach per se for about a year, since the beginning of 1986. But I've been involved with Rabbi Kahane per se for over 10 years.
Do you recall back 10 years ago to what attracted you or what brought you to be involved with Rabbi Kahane?
It was basically when I was already in junior high school. I used to read the rabbi's articles all the time, and I went to yeshiva high school, and I was a very serious student, and I used to read Rabbi Kahane's article all the time, and I saw how right he was, and I saw because I was also the concept of religion and the Zionism and the concept that of the times we're living in, all that was absolutely right, because you can see from the logic of his argument, because he has a very powerful Jewish philosophy that is based on Torah, based on Chazal, and you can see that, and is uncorrupted by any outside assimilated interference. Thank you.
Were you happy with the turnout this weekend?
I was incredibly happy with the turnout this weekend. This weekend was the first of, hopefully many. And next time it'll be also a big victory celebration. And this weekend could not have been done better. I must thank, first of all, Rabbi Kahane, because this is something I've been dreaming of for years, where all Kach people get together in Israel. Kach is a mishpacha, it's a family. Here we were able to bring together people from all over the states, our key Kach people, and bring them into this one Shabbat atmosphere and make a mishpacha. So now we make one big mishpacha, and this mishpacha will grow rapidly.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, I must thank Mickey Spiewak, who has spent many hours in preparing this and getting everything ready and making the phone calls. She's a dynamite. She's a dynamo and works very, very hard. Of course, I'd also like to thank Ken Sidman, who is national coordinator, also helped coordinate this weekend, and of course Sam Fleischman, who did a lot of work in organizing the names and the rooms, and who is our official single college coordinator.
Fine, thank you.
What's your name?
I'm Edward Solomon.
Edward, where are you from?
Philadelphia.
Uh-huh. And is this the first time you've heard Rabbi Kahane speak?
Negative. I've been with the rabbi since 1969 when we organized Philadelphia JDL.
What brought you to get involved with Rabbi Kahane and JDL way back then?
I believe in what the rabbi says, and it's a mission that's vital to the Jewish people. It's something we must do.
What would you say the most current burning issues are for you that Rabbi Kahane is involved with?
The survival of Israel.
The survival of Israel in terms of what? Are they physically in danger? Or?
At the present, not only are they physically in danger, they're also
spiritually
in danger. And today in Israel, it seems that they won't even permit a rabbi into any of the schools outside of their own religious schools. The secular schools will not permit a rabbi in, and that's a crying shame, because in this country, in the United States, all religious denominations are welcome to come in. They're asked to come in and speak to show the people the comparisons in religion. In Israel, they know nothing about. I would say half of them know nothing about religion. When you ask them, what are you, a Jew or an Arab? They say, no, we're an Israeli. I says, well, what? You got to be one or the other. Nothing, we're Israeli.
Yeah.
I know. You know, for the man's
okay, ask Gabi what it is. His friends with Rabbi Chillum.
He's not going through an exercise.
Your name is?
Well, you know, Avi, I'm Shifra Hoffman, and you're a good
I know,
Jew.
but I want
You're
people out there watching you to know who you are.
Who I am is really not very important. What I represent is very important.
And that is?
We are all involved in the battle of survival. I live in Israel, and there are Jews living here. We hope they'll come to Israel, but even if they don't, understand that you have a vested interest in what happens in Israel. We have formed a group called VAT, Victims of Arab Terror. These are the families of Jews who lost their sons, their daughters, their children in peacetime terror, not through war. I went to the memorial just 2 weeks ago before I came here to speak of Akiva Shatil, Alav Shalom, a young Israeli soldier who waited for a ride to go from his army base to home. He told his mother, warm my food, I will be home in a few minutes. And 2 Israeli Arabs picked him up. Where are you going, La'an Chayal? Where are you going? We'll give you a lift. And he hopped in. They took him for his last ride. They said to him, soldier, this is where you get off, and shot him in cold blood. Then they threw his body out and smashed it with a rock. This is only one incident. There are countless incidents which are not reported. And
I find it difficult to understand and believe that in a democracy such as Israel is supposed to be, the bastion of democracy in the Middle East, that such an incident wouldn't be reported. Yeah.
Look, the incidents are reported that he was killed, but nobody cares after that. What happens to the murderers? The families came to me and they said, please represent us. Talk in the United States to Jews and let them know that the murderers of our children are released. They are exchanged. They go out with a V for Victory sign, and the terrorist animals say, we will not sit for life. Life is a joke. We'll grab a hostage, and until we hold them hostage, we will be exchanged for them. This is the kind of justice that exists today, and I love Israel enough to live there. So nobody should misconstrue that I'm speaking against my country. But things have to change, and that is why we're here. We're here to speak for. This is an issue, whether one is with Rabbi Kahane or not. He is the only one that raises these issues. And of course, I think every Jew should be with Rabbi Kahane. He is a Jew who lives Torah and who lives Judaism and lives in Israel, which many of the Jews who criticize him do not.
Get out of here. It's just that one, is it?
It's a serious tape.
Hello there, Rabbi. How are you?
What is your name, sir?
My name is Beryl Brooks.
you from?
I'm from North Woodmere, Long Island, and I'm very happy to tell you that I just spent one of the most delightful weekends of my life at a Shabbaton with Meir Kahane. I would like to tell you that any reservations or any slight doubts that I might have had in the past about Rabbi Kahane's sincerity and dedication to Torah and to the benefit of Jews all over the world have been allayed by this beautiful, wonderful weekend.
That's a powerful statement. What has allayed your doubts? What's changed you around so?
It happened, my complete confidence in him occurred when I davened with him chakra services yesterday morning. I watched the rabbi and listened to the rabbi, and I made the personal determination that this man is fully and totally a dedicated man, a Torah-observing man. And I will back him all the way from now on.
What do you think are the most important issues that he brings up?
I think the most important issue, the singularly most important issue, is to make Israel a Torah state. That says it all.
I agree with you. Tell me, in line with that, if that's an issue that he's involved with and so important to his campaign, why do you think that he doesn't get the kind of support that should be forthcoming? I'm sure there are other Torah true Jews who theoretically should be in support of that goal.
I think that we're in no position at this time to determine how much support he really has. I think the next election will tell us and probably surprise us as to the kind of widespread support he will get both in this country and in Israel.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
We left off with you. We had to be interrupted. I'd like to get back to an issue. Rabbi Kahane has been around for a long time, and yet you were not, I guess we could say that you were negative towards him. What was the negative feelings? What was the nature of the negative feelings he had towards him?
Well, I come from a very liberal, democratic, all-the-way family, and I think in the beginning I was turned off by a lot of the media hype in terms of Rabbi Kahane being a quote-unquote violent person, an irrational person. We're very much a product of what we hear and see around us and read in the media. And I have come to know him a little bit and hear him speak personally on very many of these issues. And I've made a determination that he's not that type of a person at all. And that he does have very valid points. And that sometimes if harsh words are needed, it's because it's the only way, and it's the only thing that people will listen to. And it draws attention to the problem. But he's a very intelligent and a sincere man, and a Torah-observant man. And I was very much impressed by everything that I heard in the past few weeks, and especially over the weekend.
Thank you very much. You feel that you did not get your fair share. What was it that you'd like to say that you didn't get a chance to say?
Do you have your camera turned on there?
Yes.
No, I had a wonderful weekend. The weather was wonderful. The people were wonderful. It's just nice to be with Mishpacha, and of course Rabbi Kahane.
Are you related to him? Say Mishpacha.
We're all related. All Jews are related to each other, and that's the way we should treat each other. That's one of the things we learned from Rabbi Kahane. Ahavat Yisrael. That's very important. Love of one Jew for another Jew. They're your brothers, they're your sisters. You might not like the way they act all the time, but they're family. So you have to.
And more than just the principle of Ahavat Yisrael, but putting into practice in terms of putting yourself on the line for them.
That's it. Well, that's one of the main reasons I admire Rabbi Kahane so much, is he puts his life on the line. His life is biological family's life. It's a wonderful thing. We should all be so proud that we have Rabbi Kahane in our midst today, that we have the zchut to live in the same time as Rabbi Kahane, because I'm sure history will show that he's one of the greats, the all-time Jewish greats. Thank you very much, and I hope many people have a chance to see your beautiful tape there.
Safe trip
Beautiful
back.
production.
Very much for befriending my daughter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Safe trip back.